So what we need to do to address this problem is to construct a waiting room and notify users the time has advanced. So we want a waiting room to make it clear when time is moved forward. We want to explicitly let users know the simulation is ready for them to make decisions again. So you're going to learn how to build a waiting room and how to use simulation events to trigger messages. So let's go back into Architect and make that happen. So let's close the isee exchange and let's go back into our simulation and let's add a page which is going to be the waiting room. The waiting room will use a template, but you'll notice here that the template's a bit confusing because the template has on it this navigation information which we don't want. So what we're going to have to do is split our template up into two different templates. But first, let's construct the rest of the waiting page, and we'll take care of that problem later. So on the waiting page, I want to put a text box which says, waiting on other players to make their decisions. And we'll vaguely center that on the page. We'll make it a bit wider, and we'll increase the font size to 14 like we've been doing everywhere else. Very good. Now what we need to do is put a button on here which allows people to leave the waiting room. To do that, we're going to take the ready button that we've already made, copy it, go back to our waiting room page, and paste without clicking anywhere else. That way the button appears in exactly the same location. And we're going to change the action of this button to be, rather than ready to advance, cancel ready to advance. When the user cancels their ready to advance state, it's going to navigate them then back to the dashboard page. So let's go navigate to page. Actually, let's have it bring them back to the company information page. That's where they inevitably left from. So now we've set that up. So we've made sure to put the cancel ready to advance action first so that we tell Stella that we intend to cancel our desire to move forward in time before we go back to the company information page. That way, just in case somebody is ready to advance and the simulation moves forward, we don't end up on the wrong page. We're going to have the same issue here in this ready button. Instead of ready to advance now, this button is going to say that we're both ready to advance and bring us into the waiting room. So we need to add a new action and navigate to page. And the page that they navigate to needs to be page 3, which is the waiting room. But we've put this action second. That's problematic because the last person to advance the game is going to mark ready to advance. The game is then going to move forward, and then they're going to be put in the waiting room. That's problematic because they're going to be stuck in the waiting room even though the game has moved forward. So what you need to do is drag and drop the actions so that navigate to page shows up first. So first you go to the waiting room, then you say you're ready to advance. That way the last person who's ready to advance gets to the waiting room and then is kicked out of the waiting room back into the simulation when the game actually moves forward in time. On the waiting room, the reason why we don't want these two tabs here is because users would be able to exit this waiting room by clicking on either one of these tabs, and it would be confusing then when the game moves forward. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back to our templates, and we're going to add a page, and this template is going to be the template that contains only the navigation widget. So what we're going to do is we're going to take these tabs and we're going to cut them. And then we're going to go to template 2, and we're going to have template 2 use template 1, and then we're going to paste them back into place. So now what we've done is we've set it up so that template 2 uses template 1, and template 1 doesn't have the tabs on it. So when we go back to our interface now, we're going to see that the tabs disappear from all of the pages. But no, not to worry. We can easily switch this to use template 2 and this one to use template 2, and our tabs are now back. We've now separated out our design and our navigation templates so that we can use them in appropriately different situations. We've now created the ability to go to a waiting room and to be told what other players are doing. What we need to do now is provide a way to leave the waiting room when the game moves forward in time. So if you remember back to the beginning, we had created two variables in the model called game advanced and game over. Game advanced is 0 or 1 based upon whether or not time is divisible by 3. This is what we're going to use to push people out of the waiting room. So we're going to create a simulation event to do that, which you can create using the Simulation Events tab in the panel. And we're going to add an event, and the event is going to be on the variable game advanced. And we're going to set the threshold for this event to 1/2, because you remember the variable goes from 0 to 1. And we care about crossing this threshold when the variable grows larger than 0.5, not when the variable shrinks from 1 back down to 0. We want this event to trigger every single time that threshold is crossed on the upwards direction. And we're going to add an action every time this event is triggered whenever the run was started from the interface window, which is going to happen for everybody. And it's going to say a message, the game has advanced, review your results, and make new decisions. And the final portion of this action is going to be to navigate you back to the dashboard. So now we've created our simulation event, which says when the value of game advanced exceeds 0.5 on each occurrence, navigate you from wherever you are, in this case, the waiting room, back to the dashboard. So let's publish and see how it looks. Whenever we're republishing an interface, we don't have to go through the same process to add a new simulation. We can just find the simulation in the list and hit the Update Interface button. Now that we've done that, we can go back to Google Chrome because our URL hasn't changed at all. And we can refresh and refresh and replay the game, making sure that our waiting room is intact. Okay. And so here I'll be John. So now we'll make a decision. We go through our waiting room. You'll see the label for this button isn't what we're looking for, but we can fix that easily. And now we've seen the process where a message gets shown and we get brought back to the dashboard. Here's an example of the message. So let's go back into Architect and fix that button. To fix the button, we go back to the page, the company info, and we select the button. And rather than having the default label of page 3, we'll have it just say ready.